Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Kylie and today I'm having spicy seafood ramen with a little bit of the seafood mix that I have. It includes mussels, shrimp, squid, and I put a little bit of green onions on top, and here I have kimchi. So grab your spoons, grab your forks, or grab your chopsticks and let's eat together. Let's take the first bite. Oops. So excited. Actually, I'm gonna do the soup. This is my favorite spicy seafood ramen. It's called Jjambbong. So good. Sorry for any background noise. My little one is watching Blippi upstairs. So good. Get some kimchi. Okay. So today I want to talk about the docu-series called How to Fix a Drug Scandal. And this docu-series also highlights the issue of prosecutorial misconduct, which is becoming something that all these docu-series or documentaries have in common, and what is so interesting to me, because that's a major flaw in our justice system. So the docu-series pretty much highlights a chemist by the name of Sonia Farrock. It's like super gloomy here and rainy, so this is just perfect for today. Anyway, Sonia Farrock works in a lab that tests drugs for the state of Massachusetts. Here comes Lucy. Hi, baby. Anyway, she is caught stealing and using the drugs that she's supposed to be testing. And instead of the district attorney issuing a full investigation into her drug habits and everything, they essentially dropped the ball. And they pretty much concluded that she only used and stole drugs for the last 6 months until she was fired, because they didn't want to unfold and really investigate how long she had been using, because it would have affected all the cases of the people who were indicted by her testimony and by the drugs that she tested. So pretty much the defense lawyers of these people who were in prison for possession or use of drugs was filing an appeal because the person who tested the drugs that was found on them was now having charges being brought against them. So that makes their testimony no longer credible. So the defense attorney was trying to have his client's convictions overturned because this chemist who was working in the lab for the state was being prosecuted for stealing and using drugs. So they pretty much tell him it's not possible. The prosecution has given them all the evidence that they have. When Sonia Farak was arrested, she had a bunch of paperwork in her car, and that was taken into evidence. And the prosecution stated numerous times, and even after the defense filed a motion for the evidence to be disclosed to them, they lied to the judge and told him that all the evidence was already turned over. And because Sonia Farak's case was still pending and they hadn't prosecuted her yet, it was ongoing, they couldn't allow the defense attorney to have access to the evidence until the case was over, until the trial was over, and she was convicted. So Sonia Farak is convicted. She pleads guilty. They give her 18 months in prison. And once the defense attorney, who's pretty good, he's one of those that's like Kathleen Zellner, who is the attorney for Stephen Avery from Making a Murderer. And he goes and looks at the evidence after she's prosecuted and finds personal information about her seeing a therapist about abusing drugs. And it dates back far beyond what the state was claiming. So the state was claiming she was only stealing and abusing drugs 6 months before she was fired, right? She was working for the lab for 9 years. So this defense attorney was so persistent, waited until her trial was over, went to go look at the evidence that was found in her car, went through every single piece of paper, did his due diligence, found documents stating she was abusing drugs way before what the state was claiming, and pretty much opened up a can of worms. So after a lot of investigating and a lot of due diligence, the defense lawyer found out that she started abusing drugs 3 months after she started working for the lab, which was 9 years before. He was able to overturn the conviction for a couple of his clients that were convicted because of Sonia Farrak's testimony. And an organization of lawyers was able to free most, if not all, of the people who were sitting in prison because of Sonia Farrak's testimony. So when you test drugs in a lab in her position, you have to sign off. That's like an official like affidavit that states that you tested it and it was positive for this narcotic, right? Because she was using and stealing the drugs, the defense attorneys were able to have their cases dismissed, because when you're using drugs, you no longer are credible. Even though she states that the tests she did were accurate and she wouldn't have stolen the drugs if they weren't real drugs, which I get that, but because you were using, your credibility is out the window. So he was able to free all these people in prison because of her testimony. And similarly, there's another chemist in Massachusetts by the name of Annie Dukan, and she pretty much did almost the same thing. She wasn't stealing it and using it, but in order to please her bosses, she was just looking at the drug and saying it was positive. She wasn't going through any of the processes to test the drug to make sure that it was actually a narcotic. And she signed off on all of these people going to prison, even though she didn't test the item that was taken in as evidence. And so they were able to overturn all of her convictions as well. I mean, this cost the state millions and millions of dollars. What I find strange is that the two chemists were in the same state in Massachusetts. I definitely recommend watching it because there's a lot more detail to it about the cases. That's just shocking. But I mean, that's pretty much, you know, the outcome of these two chemists being dishonest. At the end, they were saying, like, the problem with these lab facilities is that there's not enough supervision. You know, it's state funded, so it doesn't have a lot of money. And there should be more than one chemist on duty at once to hold each other accountable, but they were just able to do whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. And that's a major problem. Also, they weren't drug tested regularly. Like, it's so silly to think that you're not drug testing a chemist who is solely testing drugs on a daily basis, illegal narcotics. I mean, where's the logic in that? I just don't get it. I mean, even if they didn't have enough money to staff it or have somebody keep an eye on them all the time, at least do random drug tests. I mean, these are the people that are most susceptible. They're working with the drugs every single day. They have free reign. They, through testimony and their affidavits, go far in the conviction. So you should do your due diligence to make sure that they are completely credible and reliable. And prosecutorial misconduct occurred because they didn't investigate more into Sonia Farak and refused to hand over the information about her seeing a therapist and using drugs for more than just the 6 months up until she was fired or caught. Even though they knew about it. And in the same case, they were not held accountable, again, for prosecutorial misconduct. I don't understand it. I mean, there needs to be serious ramifications to prosecutorial misconduct if you want it to change, right? But no, these people who are engaging in prosecutorial misconduct become judges and district attorneys, and they just are in too much of a position of power where there's nobody to police them. So it's just gonna continue to be a problem in our justice system unless people are punished or held accountable. Even the defense attorney was like, I'm not even mad at Sonia Farak. Like, she's a drug addict, so like, I understand her, and you know, she just was miserable. She didn't like her life. And she has her own problems, yes. But the prosecutors are who he was mad at because they had a personal vendetta against him. They didn't like him. And they withheld evidence that was crucial to his case. And that's against the law. It's crazy to watch these docuseries and documentaries and continuously hear prosecutorial misconduct, but nobody's being held accountable for it. Okay, I'm done. I hope you take the opportunity and the chance to go watch How to Fix a Drug Scandal on Netflix. It's super interesting, and I promise it's not a waste of your time. Give me a huge thumbs up if you liked this video. Click that subscribe button for my next video. And until then, see you next time.